It's hard to believe that it's been 2 years since Lost Story came out, but here we are, and with this momentous occasion, the game is celebrating their 2nd year anniversary. There's a lot of updates, so in this video I'm going to go through each one. Starting with the event, which follows the OVA Nulley in Wonderland. They initially released 3 pilots, Mad Hatter, Lelouch, Nulley, and the MC. On the 23rd of May, we will also get Cheshire Cat C2. The main character is a free unit that you can purchase each summon from 2 shops using 2 different event currencies. The first is a standard event currency that are similar to the ones that you've seen in past events. The second are special medals you get from completing missions associated with the 2nd anniversary. This is no different than the blue cranes currently in the global version that you can get right now during the pre-Lost Zero Arc campaign. You're going to have to gotcha summon Nulley and Lelouch though, and of course C2. Besides the main character, each new pilot comes with a brand new Nightmare frame, and C2 might have something special beyond that since she has 2 IDs, something we haven't seen before. The Nightmare frames are the Mark Alice, which is a Nightmare frame that Nulley turns into thanks to Alice and Nemo from Nightmare of Nulley. That might open the door for them to cover that manga in the future. The Meowdred is a Gwaine with a melee weapon only that has a cat's tail. This follows the tradition of making cat versions of past Nightmare frames. First we had the Meowdred, and now this. Besides the Nulley and Wonderland characters, they also released Marion and her Nightmare frame. Not the Ganymede, but a brand new one that reminds me of the Galahad called the Quinlight. Besides Cheshire Cat C2 being available later on, they're also going to release a Suzaku and Lancelot that are part of this baseball collab. If you are patient, all 4 banners will be open at the same time, giving you the chance to compare each character and Nightmare frames to make the best decision possible. There's also a reprint banner and step-up banners, which are also reprints, and 200 free summons on top of that. They have anniversary packs if you want to whale. They increase the experience you get from battles by 50%. Trading mode will have a higher chance of the excellent rating, as if you still need this anymore. As always, they have stamina for the daily quests and increase the amount of times you can challenge them by 2. Now to all the changes and updates. They added a 2.5x speed as an option during gameplay, but now you don't cycle through the options through clicking on the button. Instead, clicking on it once pauses the game and opens up a drop-down menu, allowing you to then choose a speed. This is going to take a bit of getting used to and does slow down gameplay quite a lot. You can now rank up to 110. There's new titles you can earn from doing various stuff in the game. There's a brand new item in the game that will increase the trust of your pilots by 1 per item use. You can get these as part of the mission awards for this event and in the Arena Medal store. Instead of 10 teams, you can now create 15 custom teams. Considering all the new challenge missions they've added, this is a welcome addition. Speaking of that, they've added new challenge missions. They range from limiting you by faction or pilot type or possibly pilot rank, pretty much just importing the ideas from the Akito missions. Maybe they'll add new twists as well, but I hope not, since the challenges are already annoying enough. One of the most annoying parts of these challenges is finding pilots that are allowed for a given one. You can use any pilot not marked red. So what they did to improve this is have the game by default sort your characters in descending order by available to unavailable, which will save everyone so much time. Next is the Nightmare frame added content. Now you can place your extra Nightmare frames that are not needed in most cases, but you don't want to turn into cubes in a warehouse. It's just a location to store them so they won't appear as a selectable Nightmare frame when putting together your team. The warehouse can store 200 Nightmare frames, which is more than enough. They also add the ability to change a Nightmare frame's color. To do this, you have to earn and purchase different paint items. The requirement to purchase and use paint items seems excessive because this is only a cosmetic change. It could take months to paint all your Nightmare frames and many months after that should you decide to change it again, because they don't give you a lot of paints every single time. I don't see the harm in allowing players to change the colors for free whenever they want. You have to purchase the paint items from the Guild Medal store, which doesn't restock until the end of the month, and the other item you need you get from mission awards. So I like the idea, but these restrictions ruin it, forcing you to decide on something that doesn't even matter. Moving on to other changes, you can change a character's costume from the enhanced menu, which is also where you access the Nightmare Frame warehouse and paint options, but they remove the costume change from the home home screen. Why? Then we got to talk about the rebalancing they did to 10 pilots and 1 nightmare frame. The pilot rebalancing involves stats and or effect buffs. Let's go through them. Also assume that I'm talking about these effects as if they are all level 5. They significantly improved the Shen Hu. The melee weapon skill has a higher attack power multiplier going from 4 to 7, and it now deals 19,999 damage or 8,000 at level 4. The ranged weapon got some excellent buffs as well. They increased its range by an extra 3 spots ahead, so now it can attack 5 enemy spots away, which is even better than the Queen. And this weapon doesn't have to charge its Nightmare Frame skill gauge passively. Instead of attacking 5 enemies, it now attacks 10 enemies. The cost to use the skill gauge has been lowered from 1800 to 1500, making it easier to fill up. It still has the annoying 3-second charging time before firing, but these improvements make it actually useful, especially for Birthday Shinkei and the other Shinkei, and of course Suzaku. Now to the pilots. The rank for Yuffie, the healer one, her first heal ability will occur after the fixed attack and defense value is reached once, not every 3 occurrences like before. They increased her health, defense, lowered her cost, and improved her attack power and interval for short and long range. Zero Suit C2, in addition to her normal self-healing ability, will now restore 30% of her health at 3-second intervals. They also made both of her effects occur every 15 seconds instead of 30. They didn't improve her stats, not that she needed it. Zero Lelouch, the first one we got, can now deal up to 19,999 fixed damage to 5 enemies in range on deployment, in addition to dealing 40% of its max health as damage. Instead of just reducing his relocation time, Zero Lelouch now reduces all your pilots' relocation time by the same amount of 42%. No stat boost here either, so he's still as squishy as ever. Defensive Guilford's self-deployment cost reduction went from 3 to 4, and the Britannia military cost reduction went from 1 to 3. Very underwhelming since they didn't improve his stats. The rank 4 Shirley, the one that isn't good, will now reduce the damage of 2 pilots in range instead of 1. The shield she creates is now equal to 100% of her max health, and it's also applied to the 2 pilots in range. They lowered her cost, increased her health, defense, and improved the short and long range attack power and intervals. She's finally useful. Cyborg Jeremiah, that came with the Siegfried, will now increase the attack power and defense from 40% to 80% following deployment, and they removed the time limit. I mentioned before that Jeremiah's design made no sense, and it looks like they agreed with this change. They increased his health and the intervals for both short and long range attack. Valentine Nully's effect occurs every 15 seconds instead of 30, and only reduces the max health by 10% instead of 20. This should resolve people's issues with her initial healing effect. They lowered her cost, increased her health, defense, and attack power and intervals of her short and long range. Remember, she has a fast redeployment time. Alderaan now increases her attack power from 20% to 40%. They lowered her cost, increased her health, defense, lowered her redeployment time to 30 seconds, and improved all her short range stats. Bunny Suit Colin now reduces the cost of a random pilot that is yet to be deployed by 100% from the previous 50%. They'll increase their health and defense. Coach Valletta will now increase the max health and defense of all our units by 16% instead of 10%, and will further increase pilots in the Ashford faction by another 36% instead of 14%. They lowered their cost to 0, and that's it. Layla's Alexander drones now cost 3 instead of 10 to deploy, and they deal 29,999 damage instead of 19,999 damage. The redeployment time for the drone is 10 seconds instead of 15. They didn't improve her stats. That's all the second anniversary updates, and to be honest, pretty underwhelming, but I'll talk about that in another video. Let me know what your gacha plans for this event are if you're playing on the Japanese side. For everyone else, here is my guide to the hard expedition levels. Go check it out right now.